Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again, extracting the really vital strategic intelligence from the source materials you share with us.
That's right.
And this analysis is presented within the context of Webintelligency's AI-based podcast series. We're focusing today on, well, the mechanics of those big, high-stakes business decisions.
Exactly. And our mission today, it's pretty laser-focused. We're unpacking what the source calls the strategic decision maker's dilemma.
Okay.
We're talking about that critical point that, crossroads every manager eventually faces. The moment they have to decide, is the information I have right now enough to make the call?
Right. Or do I risk losing time, maybe money, definitely momentum, by going out and digging for more information?
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this because, in today's environment, everything moves so fast. Just having data isn't the answer, is it? You need the right data, and you need to assess it quickly.
You really do.
The research we're looking at frames this really well, visualizing it almost like a strategic mind map.
Yeah. A decision tree starting right at that central choice point.
And that fundamental question is always staring you in the face. Do I need more information? Yes or no?
But, that choice, it's actually way more complex than just a simple yes-no.
How so?
Well, it reflects a manager's intellectual humility, for one, also their appetite for risk, their confidence, or maybe overconfidence in what their organization already knows.
Okay.
So we're starting right there at that decision point, and we're going to trace out basically every possible path from there.
All right, let's jump straight into what the model calls the fast paths. These are for the managers who decide, okay, I've got enough information. The research seems to split this into two pretty distinct ways of thinking. Both prioritize speed, though.
Yeah, exactly. Path one is what the decision model terms perceived completeness. These are the managers who move forward, quite confidently, actually, because they feel their deep industry knowledge, or maybe their track record of success, or just really solid internal data. They feel that's given them everything they need. All the variables are accounted for in their view.
So speed is the obvious payoff here. You can jump on opportunities that might disappear quickly.
Definitely.
But that confidence, that feels like it could easily become a major blind spot, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's the classic overconfidence bias playing out. We see examples all the time, don't we? Major companies missing huge market shifts.
Like?
Well, think of maybe a big established tech company, relying only on its historical sales data to forecast demand for a product. And suddenly, a competitor changes the game, or the technology becomes obsolete almost overnight. They were brilliant at analyzing the past, maybe, but they fail to look outside their own sort of closed data loop for those new critical factors.
And the cost of getting that wrong, when you thought you had it all figured out.
It could be catastrophic, truly.
Okay, so that's perceived completeness. Then you've got the second fast path, instinctual decision-making. Now, this sounds different. This isn't necessarily thinking you have all the data.
No, it's not.
It's more like a conscious choice to go with your gut, right? Prioritizing sheer speed when things are really ambiguous or totally new.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a deliberate reliance on intuitive judgment, on that sort of experience-based pattern recognition.
Where does that work best?
Well, you often see it being necessary, or at least valuable, in things like breakthrough innovation, maybe creative industries, definitely in early stage startups where you don't have data yet.
Right.
That initial momentum often comes from pattern recognition, not some comprehensive analysis. It's sort of the classic successful entrepreneur's move.
Yeah.
Avoiding getting bogged down in analysis paralysis.
But hang on, if we're trying to guide listeners towards, robust strategy, isn't relying on gut feel potentially just a failure to document things properly? Or build a solid process? Can't you sort of codify successful instinct eventually?
That's a really interesting point. Look, if you can codify it, then it stops being pure instinct, doesn't it?
Oh.
It becomes a repeatable process, and then you're really kind of back towards that perceived completeness path, maybe with better data. True instinctual decision-making in this model is about processing genuinely novel information rapidly, without the luxury of time for formal, deep analysis.
And the downside?
The big risk here is really scalability. One founder's gut instinct might be absolutely brilliant for a while.
Sure.
But try justifying that feeling to a board of directors, or replicating it across a management team of, say, hundreds of people. You just can't put instinct into the company training manual. It doesn't scale well.
Right. Okay. So speed is great, but it comes with risks. Let's pivot now. Let's assume we don't have that internal confidence. We actually demonstrate what sounds like a critical managerial skill. Recognizing information deficits.
Yes.
This is acknowledging, okay, I need more data here. Often really crucial when you're looking at new markets, unfamiliar tech, big strategic bets.
Exactly. Recognizing that deficit, that gap in knowledge, it really is intellectual humility in action. It's a strength.
But knowing you need information isn't the same as getting it, is it?
Unfortunately not. Reality can and often does intervene.
Yeah,
And that brings us to a really challenging scenario.
yeah.
The information is needed, you need it, but ultimately it turns out to be inaccessible.
Ah, the frustration point.
That's it, the dead end. You hit a wall.
So if that crucial piece of data is, I don't know, proprietary, locked down by a competitor, or maybe it genuinely just doesn't exist yet,
Right.
what then? The research suggests a couple of calculated responses.
That's right. The first one is what the model calls reverting to instinct. Now, this is different from past two we just discussed.
How so?
Because this isn't a choice driven by confidence. It's basically a time versus risk calculation made under serious constraint. Managers essentially accept the data just isn't coming. They proceed based on what they do know, consciously weighing the risk of delaying, missing the market window entirely against the risk of making a poorly informed decision. It's pure strategic triage.
Makes sense. And the second response to inaccessible data.
The second, and often this is necessary for those really big, irreversible decisions or things involving significant financial commitment, is the strategic decision to delay.
So actively choosing to wait, prioritizing decision quality over speed.
Correct. But this is a really complex calculation in itself. The challenge isn't just saying, okay, let's wait. It's accurately assessing, well, three key things. First, how long is this delay realistically going to be?
Right.
Second, is the data ever actually going to become available? Or are we waiting indefinitely?
Yeah, that's tough.
And third, and this is maybe the hardest part, quantifying the opportunity cost of that delay. It's incredibly difficult. If you wait 6 months for perfect data, how much ground did your competitors gain? What revenue did you leave on the table?
That's a fascinating tension. Okay, so let's move past the dead end. Let's assume we avoid the delay and the information is actually obtainable. This feels like the most common scenario, right?
Generally, yes.
In this case, the manager has another choice. Do I leverage internal know-how or do I need to look outwards? Let's start with the internal pathways first.
Right. The most immediate internal choice is simply utilizing existing internal resources.
Makes sense.
This is usually fast, it's cost-effective, and crucially, it maintains confidentiality. You tap into your internal teams, your existing data systems, the people and tools that inherently understand your specific organizational context.
There have to be limits, right? What if the strategic challenge is really complex or highly specialized, or maybe it requires deep competitive insights that your internal teams just aren't set up to gather? They're bound to hit a wall eventually.
Absolutely. And that limitation leads directly to the second internal path identified in the research. Expanding internal capabilities.
Yeah.
This is framed as the investment path.
Investment path. Okay, tell me more.
This path views the knowledge gap not just as a one-off problem to solve, but actually as an opportunity to build lasting organizational strength.
How?
It could mean things like training up existing staff in new analytical methods, deliberately hiring specialized analysts, maybe data scientists or market researchers, or making significant investments in new data infrastructure, new systems.
Okay, so this is a bigger commitment. What's the main attraction of making such a significant investment?
Well, the potential long-term returns can be huge. You reduce your reliance on external help over time, and you build up specialized knowledge that's perfectly tailored to your company's mission and context.
Sounds good.
But the risks.
They're equally significant. You're looking at potentially huge upfront capital outlay, considerable time required before those capabilities mature and start delivering real value. And, maybe most critically, the need for sufficient organizational scale to actually support these specialized, dedicated roles.
Right. I mean, think about it. If your company only needs deep OST and open source intelligence expertise, maybe once or twice a year for a specific project, does it really make financial sense to hire an entire dedicated internal OSINT team? Probably not.
That issue of scale, that's a perfect bridge, because that's exactly what often drives managers to the next major branch in this decision tree. When internal resources, whether existing or newly built, simply can't meet the complex information demand efficiently.
Then you have to pivot.
Exactly. You pivot to the external information pathway. This is where you start actively seeking specialized expertise, different perspectives, things that your internal teams often just can't provide.
Yeah, the external path really offers two key things. objectivity, which can be hard to maintain internally sometimes,
True.
and access to highly specialized skills, like advanced competitive intelligence gathering, maybe complex market modeling, things that are usually cost prohibitive to build and maintain in-house unless you're a truly massive organization. Like the Webintelligency reports, for instance, they tap into this external specialized knowledge.
Okay, so let's look at some of those external options. What are some initial choices that have become really popular recently?
Well, one area that's seen a massive surge, unsurprisingly, is leveraging artificial intelligence as a pure information source.
AI tools.
Yeah,
Ah,
AI platforms can offer incredible speed and scale. They can process, petabytes of data, spot patterns humans might miss, offer predictive analytics, often very quickly and relatively affordably compared to traditional methods.
sounds powerful, but surely relying only on AI for a critical strategic decision has its own set of limitations.
Oh, absolutely. And the research is quite clear on this. You have potential issues around accuracy, first off. Then there's the AI's fundamental lack of nuanced organizational context. It doesn't understand your company culture or history.
Right.
And there's also the risk that the AI system might simply amplify or perpetuate biases that were present in its training data. So for those really high-stakes, unique strategic decisions, AI alone often provides volume and speed, but not necessarily the strategic judgment or the tailored insight you need.
Okay, so AI is one tool. What else is out there externally? Maybe on the lower cost end.
Well, then you have what the model calls alternative methods.
Yeah.
This is things like, industry networking, conducting customer interviews, maybe some informal intelligence gathering through contacts.
Feels less structured.
It is. These methods can be great for building relationships, maybe filling in some minor contextual gaps,
Mm-hmm.
but their reliability for major strategic decisions is pretty inconsistent. They tend to be time-consuming, and you run a high risk of receiving incomplete, anecdotal, or even biased information. They're probably best viewed as qualitative supplements, not the foundation for a big decision.
Got it. So that brings us to the core external option for serious needs, professional vendor expertise. The source material really flags this as the area where managers can find the most reliable, comprehensive solutions.
That's right.
And within this vendor category, the research seems to outline two ends of a spectrum.
It does. On one side, you have the traditional human analysts and specialists.
The consultants, the bespoke research firms.
Exactly. They offer maximum flexibility, really deep contextual understanding based on experience, and often crucial strategic guidance that goes way beyond just delivering raw data. They can adapt their methods to tackle really novel, complex problems.
But the downsides?
Well, they're typically quite costly, and their process is inherently limited by human timeframes. Deep analysis takes time. Plus, their insights are often limited by the specific expertise of the individuals involved.
Okay. And on the completely opposite end of that spectrum.
You have the pure AI-based reporting solutions. These are platforms that automate data gathering and report generation using AI.
What are their strengths?
Speed, definitely. Rapid turnaround times, often significant cost advantages over human consultants, and pretty consistent quality for standardized routine data needs or reporting tasks.
But the limitations.
Well, they tend to struggle significantly when faced with truly novel strategic questions that don't fit their pre-programmed models. And critically, they generally lack the ability to provide that consultative, human interpretation and strategic advice. It's data delivery, not strategic partnership.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, especially for, the sophisticated manager listening to this. The source identifies what it considers the most robust and, frankly, adaptive approach for tackling this whole decision maker's dilemma.
Yes, it does.
And that's the hybrid approach, combining AI and human expertise.
This is explicitly presented in the research as the optimal solution path in most complex scenarios.
Why hybrid? What does that look like?
Well, it cleverly leverages AI systems for that initial heavy lifting part, the speed and scale needed for broad data gathering, initial filtering, and preliminary pattern identification.
Okay, so AI does the grunt work.
Kind of, yeah. But then, and this is the crucial part, human experts step in. And often, these are experts specifically trained in structured methodologies like OSINT open source intelligence.
We should probably define OSINT quickly for listeners. It's
Ah.
not just like Googling stuff, is it?
Well, absolutely not. That's a common misconception. Think of it as the difference between just browsing the web and conducting a targeted, methodical investigation.
Okay.
Professional OSINT is the structured, ethical discipline of collecting information from publicly available sources, analyzing it rigorously, and delivering validated intelligence, not just raw data.
And the human role in this hybrid model.
The human experts provide the essential contextual interpretation. They can connect disparate dots found in public data that an AI might categorize separately or miss the significance of. They apply strategic judgment, cross-reference findings, validate information, and tailor the insights directly to the client's unique situation and strategic questions. It's that synthesis and strategic application that AI currently really struggles with.
So why is this hybrid model the kind of model detail in, say, the Webintelligency optimal solution framework mentioned in the source? Why is that considered optimal for today's managers?
Well, according to the research, it's because it simultaneously navigates around the key pitfalls of pretty much all the other paths we've discussed.
How so?
It provides the necessary depth and contextual understanding to avoid those dangerous, uninformed decisions you risk with the fast paths or purely instinctual calls. It overcomes the limitations and potential biases of relying solely on internal resources.
Mm-hmm.
Critically, it's significantly faster and often more cost-effective than relying purely on traditional human analysis for everything. And maybe most importantly, it offers far more strategic, customized insight and genuine intelligence than you typically get from generic AI-only reporting tools.
And this thinking leads directly to the core structure that the research presents as a kind of best practice, the Web Intelligency decision-making model. It sounds like it's designed to be a very systematic, efficient way to manage these knowledge gaps when they appear.
That's exactly the idea. The model basically advocates for, first, a really rapid but honest internal assessment. Where are our knowledge gaps, really? Once those gaps are confirmed, the recommendation is to immediately engage with external hybrid research capabilities, like that AI plus human-OSINT blend we talked about. The goal is to fill those specific knowledge gaps quickly, cost-effectively, and with high-quality, validated intelligence.
And it's not just about getting the answer for this one decision.
No. Ideally, it's more collaborative. The engagement aims not just to solve the immediate problem, but also potentially help build some longer-term analytical understanding or capacity within the client's own organization. It's meant to be a blueprint for achieving speed without ever having to sacrifice the quality, depth, or strategic relevance of the information you base your decisions on.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the strategic manager listening in? It sounds like the journey of making a really significant business decision isn't just a single choice point, but more of a calculated progression. It demands a lot more than just a gut feeling or, grabbing the nearest available data point and running with it.
Absolutely. I think the primary takeaway based on this framework
Hmm.
is that the optimal decision path yearly always involves starting with some real intellectual honesty
Okay.
about what you don't know, identifying those knowledge deficits clearly.
Hmm.
Then, a quick realistic evaluation of your internal resources. What can we genuinely answer ourselves and where we need help? And then, for almost all significant complex decisions, the most effective route involves leveraging that kind of hybrid external vendor engagement.
Specifically, the combined AI and human OSINT model that the source details.
Exactly. Because that combination seems best positioned to ensure you get both the speed, the market demands, and the strategic depth required for sound judgment.
Which brings us perfectly to our final provocative thought for you to maybe chew on after this. The research we discussed highlights that when managers are evaluating Path 6 expanding internal capabilities, they absolutely must consider whether their organization has sufficient scale to justify and effectively support those specialized information gathering roles, like having dedicated OSINT analysts on staff.
Right, that scale question is critical.
So here's the question for you. How might a manager, especially if you're leading maybe a small or a mid-sized team, how could you accurately calculate the real opportunity cost and determine the necessary scale required before you attempt to build those expensive internal capabilities, rather than perhaps more wisely outsourcing that need to a specialized hybrid research provider? What stands out to you about making that specific calculation?